All right, everybody, welcome to another podcast with my TC Academy. And today we have another special guest. We have one of my students, Kimberly Rosado. She has been part of our community for a few months now. Is that right, Kim?
Yes, I started about, I want to say August actually of last year.
Awesome, awesome. You know what? It feels like a long time now that we're in 2026, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So, Kimberly, I'm going to turn it over to you. So, tell me first, prior to joining my TC Academy, what were you doing? Were you already in real estate? Like, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you for having me on. But a little bit about my background. I've always been focused on operations. I've done management for about, well, over 20 years, um, but project managing as well for over 10 years. I have a little bit of real estate background, not so much of this a TC, that's new to me. But I've purchased and sold property, so I kind of knew a little bit of the basics at least of the traditional transactions. Um, but for the most part, my background has always been focused on operations, follow-ups, tracking details, and just keeping things moving forward. And then when I came across TC, I was like, wow, it's pretty much the same thing, just the real estate portion of it versus, the construction or the roofing company that I was working for.
Awesome. Yeah. So, a lot of people that are actually in management look at TCing and they're like, hey, I think that that's a perfect fit. It goes hand in hand, regardless of the industry. Because I came from management as well, but it was more on the healthcare management.
Mhm.
But when I looked at the skills needed to be a transaction coordinator, it actually translated very well. And it sounds like that was the same thing that happened to you. Is that right?
Definitely, definitely. Because it's pretty much the same thing. Once you have that first contact with that customer, you're basically following through regardless of the situation that they're reaching out to you for, all the way to their situation is completed or rectified.
Awesome. So you came across transaction coordinating and you're like, hey, I think that I want to do this. I think it would be a great fit. And so you came across my TC Academy, right? So tell us a little bit about that experience. How did you find us? And like, what made you just like pull the trigger?
Well, it's kind of funny because originally we were looking, my fiance and I was actually just looking, we recently moved to Puerto Rico and we were like, all right, we got to find something that's, besides my 9 to 5, which I was grateful to take with me remotely. Um, at this point, when I first moved here, it was like a potential temporary position until they find a replacement. So I'm like, all right, I got to find something to back us up. So originally, it's kind of funny because I started with Apex and we were looking into wholesaling, and we learned a lot, some creative finance, different ways of doing creative finance. And that's when I was like, wow, I didn't know there was such thing. Learned the traditional going through the banks. And
Mhm.
then, once I joined Apex and I was going through all of the old YouTubes from Robert just to kind of catch me up to par, is when I came across a YouTube he did with you. And that's when I learned about TC, um, watching your YouTube with Robert. And then I started following you on TikTok. And I was like, yeah, no, this is definitely what I need to do.
Yeah, awesome. And by the way, if you guys are not familiar with Apex, it's another real estate community. It's run by Robbie Krager. He's also living in Puerto Rico. He does real estate. We love our friends over there at Apex. So very, very
Mhm.
cool. It was amazing getting to meet Robbie and the Apex crew and recording with them. I've done another recording with them as well, which again, all of these opportunities have been brought to me because of transaction coordinating. So like I've been able to do videos with Pace Morby and the Subto community and Robbie and other people out there, other real estate gurus. So very, very cool. So okay, so you decided like this is what I want to do. Are you still doing like your previous role that you were doing before with project management?
Yes, I'm still currently doing that as well.
Okay, cool. So now you're able to do both, right?
Yes.
You're able to, is it a full time? Is it 9 to 5?
Yes, it's a 9 to 5. So I'm
Okay.
able to do both. And if need be, I have help that can take over.
Awesome. So transaction coordinating, for those of you that are watching us, is a portable business, right? It's being in real estate. Some people may think that, hey, I want to be a real estate agent, not knowing all of the overhead that comes along with it and so many other things, right? You're having to go show homes, do open houses, and sometimes that's difficult having kid with, doing it with kids because I have kids myself, and sometimes I would have to bring all three of them to the open house. They're messing around, and that was an issue. So transaction coordinating really gave me the flexibility, the freedom, and things like that to do things when I needed to without having a boss telling me what to do, or telling me when I can pick up or drop off my kids, like none of those things. So that's where my TC Academy came in. We really wanted to help other families be able to, have the flexibility and the freedom to work from anywhere without having to be present, right? I think that we're all in this day and age now where that's extremely important. Obviously, the money aspect, right? And the amount of money that you can make from being a transaction coordinator, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. So, Kimberly, I know that you worked on a Subto deal. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What state was it in? Tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so I received a phone call from a client, and he's from Texas. It was a sub-2 deal, closing in a couple of days. Um,
Couple days, like
like
what? Like a week?
no, actually, like the next day.
Holy
He
cow!
reached out to me and he was like, I don't know if it's too late, but I was told I needed TC. And I'm like, I totally agree. You always want that second eye looking over everything, especially if he has a 9 to 5. So it's like you trying to juggle two things. You definitely want that second eye. So we took over, I jumped on board and we pushed the closing out a day, reviewed the contract with him, and just reviewing the contract. There was so many things that, being a new wholesaler, didn't really realize that he
Right.
should be knowing. Like things were just, um, was it redacted from the original contract? Things were crossed off. Um, Missing information on so you couldn't even see what their purchase price was on the contract, and then on the assignment contract there was missing information like the purchase price, and there was something else missing. There was like no clear terms. um, so
So
we
it was a mess,
yes,
pretty much.
yeah,
It was a
right,
hot mess.
yeah, and
Now
on top of
let's.
that, sorry, on top of that there was a surplus of $5,000 that no one knew where it was coming from.
That is huge. That is huge. Not knowing. And here's the thing, I see that a lot with contracts, right? People throw numbers on there and they don't verify
Mhm.
where these numbers are being allocated. And that's a problem because then by the time that the HUD comes out, they're like, okay, there's $5,000. Where's this going? But before we go any further, Camille, we mentioned that the deal type is a sub-2. Now we have to keep in mind that not everybody knows what a sub-2 deal is. What is
Okay.
sub-2 or subject to?
Well, subject to is when you actually take over the seller's mortgage. So the deed gets transferred into your name, but the actual mortgage stays in the seller's name.
Okay,
But
awesome.
you as the buyer are now liable, to make the mortgage payments. Um,
Right. Yeah, so the buyer takes over the seller's mortgage, the buyer takes ownership, the debt stays in the seller's name, so
correct.
perfect. So yeah, so the numbers were incorrect. It was a shit show, right?
Yeah.
And it was the day before closing. Now, let's point this out really quick because for some people, they think, well, it's the day before closing. I don't really need a TC. What do you think about that? Knowing what happened with this transaction.
That would be it's crazy. It's crazy. You definitely need a CC because with us jumping on board, we were able to extend it. It's like he wasn't sure what to do. He seemed lost, and not only that, he once we jumped on board, he literally got a call from the other side, and they were basically telling him like, I don't know why you got the TC involved. If we don't close, you're losing your deposit. So now he calls me stressed out, like what's going on? And I'm like, no, no, you have every right
Mhm.
to review everything.
Yeah.
We're still within the time frame of when the A to B contract needs to close. I'm like, no, you're all set. And it's the good thing is that's when we figured out going through all the numbers where the $5,000 was coming from. He would have been paying 5,000, the wholesaler would have gotten an additional $5,000.
Exactly. And here's the thing that if you are an investor and you start getting people rushing you and pretty much threatening you that you're going to lose your earnest money deposit because now you decided to bring a TC last minute and now they're wanting to extend so that they can verify everything, that's a red flag. And
Yeah,
you as the buyer should not fall under that pressure and say, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to use a TC. I'm just going to close it either way. Because now you're going to end up having to pay a lot more and you're going to close with a ton of errors or missing paperwork, especially for a Subto deal, which is a creative transaction, so many moving parts and so many areas where it can go wrong.
exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So that was one of the things. Now, there was a situation with the trust. So let's talk about that. The trust is like an entity, right? So people have an LLC where they can close with, and other people have a trust. It helps kind of, adds another layer of protection because you can't see inside the trust. So, on the A to B contract, when I say A to B contract, I'm talking about the original contract between the seller and the wholesaler.
Mhm.
We noticed that that buyer, and I put in quotation marks because they aren't the buyer, they're the wholesaler. The name of that entity was a trust in the name of the seller's name and the property address, if I remember correctly. Let's say it was Robert Smith, 123 Main Street. So the question came about was, okay, is the buyer, the actual end buyer, assuming that trust? The answer was no. So
Mhm.
then now we start asking questions. Well, if they're not assuming that trust, did they even create this trust? What are they going to do with this trust that's named after the seller and the property address? What is the wholesaler going to do with this? Well, long story short, they said the trust was never created to begin with. It was never created. So they put the name of an entity that doesn't even exist, right?
Right.
Um, we kept giving pushback. The entity was created. They said that this is how they run their operations. They always create trust for properties. They typically their intent is to purchase the property themselves, but then with this specific property, they wanted to assign it. Long story short, the LLC or the trust was created, but it wasn't getting transferred. Now, I don't recommend for wholesalers to do stuff like that, okay? It causes a lot of questions and potential red flags, right? Because number one, if you're not going to use it, why even create it to begin with, right? I know that they may want to do that because they don't want people to know their names or who their LLC is. Because here's the thing with LLCs, right? I can look up your LLC and I can find out who owns that LLC, right? But with a trust, it's not like that. So we won't get into too many details on that,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of questions that we had to dig through and refer to Title I and things like that.
Yes.
Did you want to add something else on that?
No, just for the most part that I think you clarified and made all the points on that. I mean, even it was up to even to title. I think eventually they claimed they had paperwork on the trust, but title had a copy of it, and title
Yeah,
confirmed they had a copy of it. But it's just red flags all over it.
exactly. And so the HUD comes out, there's a discrepancy because of the numbers. As a TC, now you're creating addendums to provide clarity on what these numbers are, who's getting what, and so on and so forth. So we finally got it to closing, which was amazing, right? Especially like being in the time crunch. I know you did extend it a day, so it ended up closing in 2 days rather than one. But it was definitely needed. We were able to clean everything up and just make everything uniform and neatly. Now, tell us a little bit more about this, if you don't mind. So, as a TC, let's get into the fees because sometimes investors don't know how much a TC costs. They may have an idea that we charge the same as like agents and things like that. So, what are the three things that come along with like the fee structure, right? So, is it deal based? Like, how do you come up with the pricing?
Well, it's the price and they're per file, and it depends, where the type of deal, where are they located, and when they're closing.
Okay. So, when they're closing, the deal type and the state that it's in, right?
Correct.
Awesome. And it's a percentage or is it a flat fee? Like how does that work?
It's a flat fee. Um,
Okay,
Again, depending on the structure, the type of deal it is. So, I
perfect.
mean, if you're closing within 2 weeks, then there's an expedited fee that gets added.
Right. Now, on this type of transaction, just so that people can have an idea. So it was a sub two, was closing in a matter of a day. It was in Texas. What was the deposit on something like this?
Well, I think it was 675.
675 deposit, and then how much I think actually
I think
I
it,
think
I
it
know,
was
the total was came out to 1650.
1650. It
Yep.
was, I believe it was a $900 deposit, 675 at closing.
Okay.
I
Yep.
believe
So
it
it was
was
off day.
something around there.
Yep.
Um, guys, we closed this like, was it December,
Yeah.
November, around
No,
there?
beginning of December.
Okay, yeah. So like the numbers are kind of fuzzy for us, but in a matter of 2 days, like she was able to make $1,600 or so, 15,
Mhm.
$1,600. Not a bad payday, right?
No. And we also did the some of the post-closing services
Yes.
as well with the paper.
Awesome. So as a transaction coordinator, you are providing services for your buyer all the way around, right? So from contract to close and beyond.
Correct.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, Kimberly, if you can give a key takeaway for investors that are watching this video, what would you say if they're maybe looking into getting into their first deal? What would be one piece of advice that you would give them?
I would say, like, treat this as your business. Like, don't treat it as a 9 to 5. Be there and give it a your all, basically.
Yeah.
And being new at it, don't be shy to reach out for help. There's a community out there that's willing to help. So,
Yeah, exactly. So when people are getting into real estate, sometimes they want to wear all hats, right? They want to do everything. They want to do the marketing, they want to do the cold calling, they want to do the door knocking, literally everything under the sun. But that's not scalable, right? And so transaction coordinators actually help investors scale. I think that a lot of people that get into real estate, they're getting into real estate because they want to leave their 9 to 5 at some
mhm.
point, right? They want to do this full time. They want to scale it. They want to make a lot of money in real estate. But when they do everything under the sun, it's really hard for you to actually scale that way because you're not refining or focusing on what you do best, which typically is finding more deals.
Yep, exactly.
So, as a transaction coordinator, um, tell us briefly what a transaction coordinator actually does. What is their main focus?
Um, so once they get an investor or even an agent has a signed contract, a fully executed signed contract, they pretty much hand it off to us. as TCs, and we take it and we run from there with it. We do all communications. We're like the Meet Hub. We do all communications. We schedule any like walkthroughs or um, any appointments that need to be made. Literally everything that needs to be done all the way up until closing for the most part. You as an investor wouldn't really need to get involved unless we need additional information from you. So pretty much you'll be next phone call would be like, all right, you're ready to close, Jennifer. Like everything's done. We
Yeah.
contact title, we handle, any information with titles, any liens, as well as escrow, literally everything that has to do with the behind the scenes of the transaction.
Right.
Basically,
So,
free your time so you can go look for another client, another deal.
so the investor or agent gives you the contract and you just take it from there. They're pretty much hands off, except when they need to sign, right? Pretty much.
Exactly. Yes,
Very, very cool. And honestly, guys, this saves investors and agents hundreds and hundreds of hours over time, right? On a weekly basis on just the file, we could be saving investors 5 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours. It just depends. Every deal is going to be different. And even the simplest transactions, even a cash transaction is when an investor or a buyer is coming in, not using any financing, pretty straightforward. There ends up being issues because there are title liens, things that need to get resolved, things that just pop up, miscommunications. It's just there's so many things that can go wrong. And so instead of the investor or the agent having to get on the phone with title, find out what's going on, follow up with the seller, get addendums, make sure it's signed, send it back to title, the TC is taking care of everything.
exactly. And on top of that, making sure there's no missing as simple as a signature or an initial or even paperwork. Make sure all paperwork gets over to title and nothing's missed. Ready for
Exactly.
closing.
Exactly. So you're pretty much the assistant to an investor or agent that is handling these real estate transactions. You're taking care of all the communication and paperwork from contract to close. And if they want post-closing services like assistance with utilities, insurance, servicing, or anything like that, you can help with that as well, right?
That's correct. Yes, we can.
Perfect. Awesome. And so, Kimberly, now that we've gone through all of this, and people are probably like, hey, I want to reach out to Kimberly Rosado. Where can they reach you?
Oh, we have the Facebook, J&KTC Management, also Instagram, TikTok, under Kim Rosado. We do have a website, JKTC Management, and our email is info@JKTC Management, as well as phone number, I don't even know off the top of my head, but it's 787-516-2367.
Awesome. And now, what kind of deal types do you guys work on? Do you just work on one specific deal type, or what kind of do you focus on?
On all deal types, we do the traditional, we do all creative finance, and so we do the sub-twos, seller finance, and for sale by owners, cash deals, um, wraps.
Perfect. Do you focus on just a specific state or any state?
Nope, we do all 50 states, including Puerto Rico.
Wonderful. Well, Kimberly, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I am so glad to have you on our podcast. You did a phenomenal job on that transaction. You were paying very close attention to detail. You were on it. I know that, you were spending long hours on that file just to be able to get it to close. I know you were up at like 11 o'clock at night,
Oh, yes.
putting in a lot of work.
Oh, yes.
Perfect. Well, Kimberly, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. And guys, if you are watching this, if you're an investor or an agent and you need a transaction coordinator, then you definitely want to connect with Kimberly Rosado with JKTC Management. Again, you can find them on social media. You can find them on Facebook. You can, go on their website. Or if you are a potential student, if you're like, hey, I want to be a Kimberly Rosado one day. I want to, make a change in my career. I want to be a transaction coordinator, work remote, make money from the comfort of my own home or wherever you want to live. I mean, Kimberly lives in Puerto Rico. I live in Puerto Rico as well. And we have students all over the 50 states. So if that is you, if you are interested, make sure you check us out on our YouTube, My TC Academy. We also have a website, mytcacademy.com, and we're also in the school community. So check us out. We have a ton of education. Not only do we focus on the education piece, but also on the continuous mentorship and teaching you how to make this a business, guys. I mean, you can work under another TC company, or you can make this your own transaction coordinating business like Kimberly is doing. And again, she's operating nationwide and helping so many investors and agents get their deals to closing. Guys, I will check you guys out on the next video. Thank you so much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.